We're going to show you 5 great black bear hunting cartridges, so buckle up. Hi everybody, welcome to LocaCarnivore. Glad you could join us. Well, springtime bear season's just around the corner, so I thought I'd do a quick video about 5 good choices for a black bear cartridge and what you really need to look at and what's required for a black bear cartridge. Now, picking a really good black bear cartridge is based on 4 different factors, so we're going to examine each one in turn. Now, the first one is size, as far as the weight of the animal, the body weight. Black bears are not, on average, extraordinarily large animals. They're not like their brown bear / grizzly cousins, which are quite large, or polar bears, something like that. For the most part, your average weight in most areas, but there are exceptions, we're going to deal with that. But most of the time, you're going to find that black bears weigh about 200 pounds-ish, give or take. Maybe 150 to 250 would be a good range for your average black bear, from kind of a small specimen that you might not want to shoot to a fairly average. Now, can they get bigger? Oh boy, can they get bigger. There have been record bears that have been 800 pounds plus. And why is that important? Well, we're going to see that in a little bit when we select cartridges, as far as the amount of power we need to bring to bear, and very importantly, the bullet construction that we need. Now, the second thing we have to think about is our hunting method. Are we hunting in a still hunt situation, like from a blind or over bait, like out of a tree stand, or even on the ground over bait? Are we dealing with that? Or are we doing a spot and stalk? And then on top of that, we have to figure in the cover, the available cover for the bear. Is it a very densely wooded, heavy, brushy area, or is it more open, kind of rolling country, something like that? That's going to play a big part in your cartridge selection, and primarily on how much reach you need, what kind of range, effective range you're going to need on these animals. All right, the third thing that we need to look at is bear anatomy and body construction. They have heavier bones and a lot more muscle typically than, especially up in the front end of their bodies, than a typical deer will have. Now, they are classified as a thin-skinned animal, game animal, but they're not really, there's a lot of factors that make it not so much a thin skin. Mainly is all that fur. That really thick fur is very dense and can really play havoc with a bullet. And then, depends on the season. Now, we're talking spring bear today, obviously, but if you're looking at a fall bear, that fall bear is going to have a lot more fat on it than a spring bear. Spring bears come out of the den and they've depleted all that fat reserve and stuff, so they're a lot leaner animal. And so you don't have to worry about the fat as much. But in a fall bear, you're going to need a lot more penetration to get through all that fat. So just something to think about. Now, the fourth thing, well, before we get into the fourth thing, we got to do the usual, hey, give us a big like on the video. We really appreciate your help. And we want you on the LocaCarnivore team, so please subscribe. And don't forget to ring that notification bell so you won't miss a single video. Let's get on to number 4, consideration number 4, and that's shot placement. There is some controversy in the bear hunting world. There are 2 distinct camps. One is the camp of break the bear down before you kill the bear. And the other one is just get a killing shot and, deal with it. Hopefully the bear doesn't run too far. Now, the shot placement choice is going to make a big difference in both the bullet, certainly the bullet you're going to choose, and also the cartridge that you're going to choose. And the other issue you need to think about as far as the shot placement, as far as the shoulder versus the, double lung shot, something like that, that's based on the bear being, broadside to you. But what if it's quartering to you or quartering away? Well, first of all, you may not want to take that shot. But second of all, if that's the only shot you have, or you're forced into it because the bear, say, makes a charge or something like that, you need to understand what you're dealing with. Bullet construction is probably the second biggest consideration, quite frankly, and that's way above considering what cartridge, what caliber you want to use. The main thing is the bullet construction. And again, we've got 2 schools of thought here. Now, if you're trying to break that bear down and you intend to shoot the shoulder and try to break that bear down, you're going to need a very tough, durable bullet. You're going to want something that's bonded and has a reputation for holding together while still providing good expansion and energy transfer. Now, on the other hand, there is the school of thought which says we want especially if we're shooting lungs, we want a massive energy dump right away, kind of like shooting deer. We want a massive energy dump and a bullet that expends all of that energy going into the body and really generally doesn't exit, so it dumps all that energy into the organs. And lastly, in our considerations, we need to refer to Robert Ruark, who was a famous hunter, big game hunter in Africa, who coined the phrase, use enough gun. And I cannot overstate that enough, especially when we're talking bears. You're dealing with an animal that, under the wrong circumstances, is quite capable of doing you grievous bodily injury, as the British like to say, or flat out killing you. So, refer to old Rourke's rule, use enough gun. And another thing that we could use around here at LocaCarnivore is your support. We do have a Patreon. Please go down to the link in the description, go over, show us some love. We'd appreciate that. Also, if you want more content, our LocaCarnivore.com website is ready for you. The link is down in the description, and while you're there, click on that store tab at the top of the screen and you can get some wonderful LocaCarnivore merchandise, gift ideas. Just saying. All right, with all those factors in mind, let's get to our list. And we're going to do it in order of increasing power. So I'm going to start with the cartridge I think is probably the least powerful but still acceptable, and we're going to move up in power level from there. And another thing, what do you hunt bear? We'd love to hear your bear stories. Are you thinking about it? What do you think are good cartridges? Go down in the comments, let us know your mind. We'd appreciate that. And don't forget to share the video while you're at it. Thanks. All right, number 5 on the list is the .308 Winchester. Now the .308 is a really good cartridge. It hits very hard for its size. In fact, I like to say it hits way above its weight class, much harder than you would think it would. I've seen .308s do some really good stuff. You have to be cognizant of your ranges and stuff like that, and your ballistic coefficients, how much energy downrange, etc. But the .308 loaded correctly, and for bear, most people that I've talked to that are smart on this have done it, and also just my own inclinations is you probably should be around a 175, 180 grain bullet. Go with the heavier bullets with a higher sectional density. That way they will penetrate better and deliver a lot of energy to the target as well. Now with the .308 though, if you're going after some really big ones, or you have the possibility of encountering a really big bear, say 400 plus pounds, you might want to double think the .308. You might really want to double think and move up the power scale a little bit. Just a thought. All right, number 4 on the list would be the .30-06. Fantastic cartridge. It's been there, it's done that, it's done everything you can possibly think of a cartridge can do. So it's a very good cartridge, very available. And it's been used a lot in Alaska, Canada, places like that, where there are a lot of bear hunters, and it's thought of very highly. Now, again, like the .308, we want to be in the heavier bullet weights. I'd say a minimum of 180, like to see even in a 220, and Woodley makes a fantastic 250 grain bullet, which is superb if you're hunting those really large bears. So that will give you superb penetration. So something to think about there as far as bullet weight selection. And the .30-06, if you're hunting in more open country, generally will give you about 50, 75, maybe even close to 100 yards more reach than .308 will. So that's something to think about as well. Cartridge number 3, 7mm Remington Magnum. Now a lot of people think of this as a long-range kind of flat shooting cartridge for open country for use on deer, pronghorn, or elk, something like that. But the 7 Magnum has got a lot to recommend it. First of all, you're going to get Magnum type power, but with roughly .30-06 recoil levels. So if you need that extra power, or think you might going on a larger bear or something, but you don't want to put up with the fuss and the bother and getting your shoulder pounded every time with a heavier Magnum, the 7 Magnum gets you entree into the Magnum world, but without a lot of the downsides. Now having said that, what bullet weight in a 7 Ram Mag? First of all, I would say probably no less than a 160 in my opinion, and I'd like to see in 175, and there's some even heavier bullets out there, but a lot of the heavier weight bullets beyond 175, they tend to be these long-range hunting type bullets, so they're much more frangible. They're designed to open up at lower velocities. So maybe not the best thing if you're hunting over bait or something like that and looking at a really big bear that's only 40 yards away. That bullet choice might not be your best option. But the 175s, you can't say enough about the 175 grain partition. In my opinion, it's the gold standard of 7mm Remington Magnum bullets, especially when you're talking about something you're hunting something that can bite you. All right, the number 2 choice, in my opinion, is the .300 Winchester Magnum. It'll far outclass the .308 and the .30-06, and my own opinion has always been the person who owns a .300 Win Mag has little use for a 7mm Remington Magnum. So if you really want that extra edge, especially for longer shots, that .300 Winchester Magnum is going to really outpace just about everything else out there. Super flat shooting. You can handle the heavier bullet weights with no problem. I would like to see you in at least 180 grain, and even better, like a 200 or 220 grain. That new 200 grain Federal Ascent, and I'm not shilling for Federal, I've used this already in the field on other animals other than bear, and I found it to be a really good bullet. But it's super heavy weight, obviously, really high sectional density, and it really does hold together. So it's really good penetration. So if you're needing that longer shot with a bullet that's going to hold you up, and also a bullet that's going to hold up at close range, if you end up having to shoot close range, you know, that Federal Terminal Ascent or a similar type bullet, A-frame, whatever, might be your best choice. And if you end up having to stop a charge, it's going to be better than a lot of the other choices that are lower on the power scale that we've already discussed. So 300 Win Mag. All right, number one choice for black bear cartridges. And I think some of you who follow the channel and seen some of my other videos, you may have an idea of what's coming up here. And it's going to be, yep, you guessed it, 375 Holland & Holland, 375 H&H. Fantastic cartridge. If you're hunting these big bears, or you think you might end up having to deal with a charge, or you're hunting black bear in grizzly country, that 375 can be a very comforting thing to have in your hands, because you know that's a true charge stopping cartridge. Now on bullet weight, I would say any of the bullet weights that is commonly used, you don't have to go super crazy like the 350 Woodley or something like that. Keep it sensible. The 260s through the 300s would be fine. It's super penetration, lots of power, and we're talking close to 4,000 foot-pounds at the muzzle. Great charge stopper. But if you're in open country, it's quite versatile. I would not hesitate, if I knew my business and knew my gun, you could do a 250, 300 yard shot on a bear with a 375 H&H with no problem whatsoever. So it's very versatile and super comforting to have. Yeah, the rifles are a little heavy, so if you're having to do a lot of, you know, up and down hills and mountains and stuff, you might want to double think that. But you're hunting big bears over bait, or especially out of a blind, and you might have to deal with a close shot and a very unhappy bear if for whatever reason he doesn't fall right over from being hit with that sledgehammer. You would have the 375 in your hands, and you would feel a lot better about that than, say, having a 308, in my opinion. Well, there you go. That's my 5 top choices for black bear cartridges. Thank you for taking your valuable time and spending it with us here at the LocaCarnivore today. We hope you learned something. Hope you found the video useful. And remember, always, always insist upon facts. Thanks for watching.